Bat family, welcome back to another Batman movie-esque kind of video in the world of the Matt Reeves Batverse, if you will, because man, I put out so much content on the channel lately. But today, in that panel as well, I wanted to make a separate video for this because he also went over how the Gotham PD series is connected to the Batman, when it's set, what story will it follow any particular character, where is Batman at in his career, all of that good stuff. And I just want to discuss it with you guys, give some opinions and whatnot. It's just a great time to be a Bat family fan. But before we do, guys, just one favor from you. Click the like button. I'd really appreciate that, especially if you do go on to enjoy it. And subscribe to make sure you don't miss out on a single update video on anything, well, DC and comic book nerdy. So we heard a little while back, and I've done separate videos on this Gotham PD series with just, you know, the announcement and how there's going to be this shared universe across multiple platforms, believe it or not, when it comes to this whole Batman, well, movie trilogy and the universe that is building around it. You may have actually heard that there could very well be an HBO Max Catwoman show, but I still don't want to comment on that too much just because it wasn't announced at DC Fandome, but like from what I've heard, that is being reserved for another time, and conveniently and interestingly, Zoe Kravitz's current series that she was in was kind of scrapped. So, you know, do you see what I mean when that's connecting? But this isn't about that. Let's push that to one side. But it does make sense with this whole shared universe across multiple platforms. But let's get into the Gotham PD details. I'm about to read out everything Matt Reeves said about it, and there's some juicy tidbits. He just couldn't stop talking, but in a good way. In a good way. And I think one unanimous comment that I keep getting on my Batman recent coverage with the DC Fandome stuff is that this guy gets it. So when he was asked about how the Gotham series and, well, just the two project series and films overlap and how they connect, he went on to say, the idea of this story was a story in which Gotham has this depth of corruption, and then the idea that we could actually do this series that is going deeper into an aspect of it, which in this case is the corrupt police department, the corrupt inner workings of the city. And the way we're going to do the series, Terrence Winter is just like an incredible writer, so the idea that we got him to do this is literally a dream. And the idea is we go back to year one, so Batman year one. And year one is the beginning of the emergence. It's the first appearance of this masked vigilante that starts to unsettle the city, and you start to see the story through the point of view of these corrupt cops, and one in particular. And the story is actually a battle for his soul, and he's a cop over generations, and the history of corruption in Gotham is enormous and goes back many years. And the story is like, as you realize there's this myth that's building in the background, you're actually in a new place where you've never seen these characters before, some of which we'll touch on that you may have seen from the comics, but others totally new. Then you can go down an avenue and go in detail that you couldn't do in a movie. And to go into these rich places and meet entirely new characters that Terrence is going to create, I'm incredibly excited about it. So that's seriously interesting stuff. It just really does expand that premise that is the Gotham PD show. I've already made, as I said, a video about it. I drew parallels to Gotham. In its first season, it was going to be a bit more of a police detective kind of crime unit kind of thing. But as you know, that show went along. The difference between this show, the upcoming Reeves-related connected universe show, Gotham PD, is that what Gotham did is it evolved the characters growing up, like Selina Kyle, Scarecrow, the emergence of the villains, which is actually very similar to how Matt Reeves is going to depict the Batman and his rogues gallery in these movies. They're not like already there. Like the Riddler's emerging for the first time, as we went over in yesterday's video. But this is really going to be that kind of noir-esque kind of crime-solving drama, cops, you know, literally GCPD level stuff. And if you like that vision, then it's going to be purely engulfed by all of that. But what I loved about some of these details that he gave away is that this is Batman year one, and obviously this is the introduction of the Batman to Gotham City. So already in year two, with the details we went over in yesterday's video with Matt Reeves saying how does the public perceive him? Well, they're afraid of him. Imagine if this Bat just came out of nowhere, beating up people, trying to put the fear of God in them so they won't commit the crimes. People are going to be scared of him. He's not quite yet the beacon of hope he will become. He's on that trajectory, but you can only imagine what people are thinking in Batman Year One, and you can only imagine what cops, corrupt or not, will think about this kind of vigilante taking the law into his own hands. So I don't think we're necessarily going to see Robert Pattinson. We could never say never, right? Especially with how much the multiverse is changing. By the way, I'm not just saying it's going to be connected to DCU or Flash's multiverse as of when the Flash movie establishes this TV/movie multiverse, because if you watch the multiverse panel on DC Fandome, you'll know what I'm on about there. HBO Max is this kind of middle ground, this bridge that will allow, especially with this being a shared universe, characters like Jim Gordon to maybe appear on the show, but I don't expect Jeffrey Wright either to be a regular on this show or anything like that. He is on TV in things like Westworld, so that's why I expect him, of course, to appear in this. But as we heard from the main man himself, this is following a corrupt cop who is also battling for his soul. So I think we're going to see this corrupt cop as a jammy cop, so to speak, a dirty cop, but I think slowly throughout the series, as Matt Reeves describes, battling for his soul. I love the premise of that because I think there's going to be a bit of morality building for him throughout the series, and that's going to be a very interesting story to explore. He may start off dirty, he may start off corrupt, but by the end of it, he may be a bit more straight and on the narrow, well, the straight and narrow, as they say. And with my vision of that, I intuitively think we're going to see this cop try and blend in as he's getting better. There's going to be corrupt Ben cops buddies of his who think he's just as corrupt still, but maybe through seeing the Batman, or maybe he has a direct kind of instance with the Batman that puts the fear of God into him. Through there on out, he tries to be a bit better, but also tries to not make that as obvious to all of these other Ben cops. And even though I just said that scene with the Batman, I don't think he's going to be in it as such, as in a way perhaps that he could be that kind of silhouette-y shadow figure. For example, if you've read the Gotham Central comic book storyline, all of the popular characters of which people normally go to read things for, like the Batman, is hardly in that. And if he is, he's like on the other rooftop. That series really does, that comic book series, concentrate on the GCPD, the crime drama, and follows, well, yeah, these officers and detectives. And I think that is really what they're adapting here. And I can imagine episodes kind of starting off in the sense that, if you want to get specific about Batman, if we don't see him, the GCPD, and as Matt Reeves said in the part I read out, there's this emergence of this masked vigilante. It unsettles the city. I think we could see this cop and with these other characters, these other corrupt cops, these detectives go to a scene of a crime after Batman had been there, and then they pick up the pieces and investigate the emergence of this masked vigilante. It's not even going to be at the point of where you saw in the Batman trailer, where the Batman is like walking behind Jim Gordon and you see all these FBI agents and police officers just looking at him. They've already seen him for a little while. This is after that. This is Batman Year One. That is Batman Year Two. So at this point, it's going to be so interesting to see this one cop in particular who's battling for his soul, and these other cops, looking at the work of this masked vigilante and the crimes it's related to. Just because there may be some aftermath of the night before when Batman beat up some thugs doesn't mean the case is solved, even from Batman himself. The police are going to be working on it at the same time, and I think we're going to see some point of view stories just like that. There's so much uncapped potential with this, and hey, Gotham 2.0 is here, and you can be damn sure I'm going to be doing those reviews for it. I just spewed a load of speculation, but you can kind of get an idea of where they could go with that in Batman Year One, and how these cops are reacting to this vigilante. And I love the tale of following one specific cop. Well, as Matt Reeves said himself, the point of view of multiple corrupt cops, but one in particular. And when he says a cop over generations, maybe I think that's meant to entail that he comes from a family line of police officers. Maybe he's got into a situation where it must be hard to avoid being a corrupt cop in Gotham, but maybe there's always been a bit of a deep down part to him where he does have this slightly more of a moral compass than these other GCPD officers, and he's trying to attain and get back to that point, but obviously in such a corrupt and filthy city in every capacity that you can think of, that's going to be a bit of a hard line to walk, and we're going to see that journey unfold. And I love the way Matt Reeves described it. I don't think this is a bad thing at all, expanding the movie universe. It's fleshing it out in a way that I don't think will be mishandled. And I think, you guys in the comments could already see it, will share similar sentiments to me. Also, when he says seeing other cops, I think it's going to be a great opportunity to obviously see people like Jeffrey Wright come in, the one good cop. Maybe he'll have an influence in certain scenes in, every other episode to this one cop who's battling for his soul. But we may see people like Harvey Bullock. There's so many characters in the GCPD that I think your generic kind of Batman fan who may know a lot about certain things, but doesn't know a lot about all of these other spicy characters that have a lot of depth to them as well. DC almost owe it to themselves to see what it's like exploring that. And you could say, yes, they've done that with Gotham before, which is a complete valid point, but that stylistically went quite a different way than what this is gonna really stay to grips on. In just this corrupt police department. And another thing, Terrence Winter, I think if you know a bit about his work, that is why, and the way Matt Reeves just picks him up, and he picked up the cast a lot in that panel, just whether it's from the movie or, you know, the writer, for example, Terrence Winter, you should already be locked in to like the vision this series has if this video didn't already do that for you. So I would love to know your thoughts on this down in the comments below. I know it was a little bit of a short kind of bit of information that he gave us, but it was enough description for me to dive head over heels into all of that discussion about it. But what are your thoughts? Do you agree with the approach that I think they will have in certain episodes? For example, the scenes and the way Batman may be involved in that specific way. I really do feel like that could be a thing, but honestly, guys, I'm dead hyped. This is such a bright future for all things that we love, and I think Matt Reeves is kind of the best puppet master to orchestrate all of this. If you enjoyed this video, especially if you got to this point, I'd really appreciate a like. I know whenever some people say that, you forget to do it, I forget to do it, but just click it right now, and then, hey, you've done it, and thank you very much. Subscribe for more videos like this, anything we learn, and there are upcoming videos on Suicide Squad, you know, Wonder Woman, you name it, so make sure you don't miss out on that. But thank you so much for watching, everybody. I hope you have a lovely rest of your day, and I'll see you, Bat Family, in the next video. Goodbye.